So this is Fatih Hamad, who is, you could almost see him like the Goebbels of Hamas in a way, not just prominent, but he has been in charge of media. He's in charge of Al-Aqsa TV. He has been speaking to people in Arabic. He's not very much known on the international stage, but I wish people were more familiar with him because he says some of the most honest and really, really messed up things. But here is what he thinks, and I just want to ask you, how could Israel possibly deal with such a society that is taught things like these?
لنتطلع إلى أمرين مهمين نحن قاب قوسين أو أدنى منهما. أولا هو تنظيف فلسطين من دنس اليهود واستئصالهم بإذن الله، وهو قاب قوسين أو أدنى. 4 سنوات يا إخواننا، 2022 بنكون خلصنا منهم. أما الأمر الثاني وهو إقامة الخلافة بعد أن تتعافى الأمة من سرطانها وهو اليهود بإذن الله سبحانه وتعالى. أنه لا يعني أننا سائرون في مسيرة العودة السلمية، أننا تخلينا عن المسيرة العسكرية الجهادية، فيدنا على الزناد ومصانعنا تشتغل وتعمل في الليل والنهار وفي كل يوم
the idea he's presenting and the ideal that he glorifies to his people, this man put in charge of people by Hamas, is that the goal is to eradicate the Jews and the next goal is to build the caliphate.
Right.
And this was a speech that he gave in 2018 during the so-called peaceful March of Return, which Israel gets lots of hate for. This was peaceful. This guy was leading the peaceful March for Return, but saying, yes, we are peaceful right now, but our fingers are on the trigger. As soon as we are ready, we will eradicate them and build the caliphate.
Right.
How is Israel supposed to deal with this?
Well, first of all, this guy is one of the founders of Hamas security wing. He was, believe it or not, Sinwar's and Deif handler, this guy. Mohammed al-Deif was assassinated a few months ago. The Hamas military wing leader was handled by this guy.
Have you met him?
I never met him.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, and most importantly, that his prediction that in 2022 Israel would be wiped out of the map and he would establish his Islamic Khilafah apparently did not work.
It's because of
as
COVID.
He planned. Yeah, I think COVID maybe postponed it for a couple more years. Delusional people, and Israel cannot negotiate with this. Any democracy cannot negotiate with this. Any decent human society cannot accept this type of savages who choose violence to fulfill their ambitions and their lust for power. And when any democratic society or actually any human community, when they reach the point where there is lunatics like this, outrageous, who want to kill, who want to destroy, thinking that they have the perfect model, a failing model, by the way, proven wrong, proven a dead end, and they just want to repeat it out of curiosity to see what will happen when they become the rulers of the universe. Then any society, not only Israel, has no choice but to fight. And the use of force in this case is totally acceptable and justified.
Do you think most Gazans or Palestinians, do you think half or most agree with what Fatih Hamad said here?
Most of the Muslim world.
Really, really messed up. So there is a lot of talk about what Israel would do with Gaza after they are successful in eliminating Hamas, which seems to be an endless mission, to be very honest. But it's just lots of Israelis have this whole concern that even if they annexed the land and the people were part of the land, they would slowly have to be integrated and they would have to become citizens. They would have to vote. And if you give people who have such thoughts the chance to vote and to become part of your society, it's basically suicide. They want to destroy Israel. They want to eradicate the Jews.
Right.
How can you give them this opportunity? So what do you think Israel should or needs to do in the long term to deal with this and to, eliminate the threat, to get rid of the threat, and to establish a prospering society without being constantly fired at?
It is a big problem. And I really don't know what is the solution, but war. I'm afraid war is the only way towards peace in this case. Because when people are determined to annihilate other people for no reason other than a promise in the future or a promise made in the past by someone we don't know if he or she ever existed, and we are still hoping and trying to do everything we can to fulfill that promise, there is going to be war. And I'm afraid only war that can set the terms, if I can say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I hope we don't get to that point. Israel did not displace the Palestinians. In fact, they are not even Palestinians. They're just Arabs. Yeah. Mostly economical migrants, Bedouins, Gypsies, Romans, Persians, all type of people, Turks, Egyptians. Many people crossed the Gaza is the gate between Asia and Africa. It's right on the border of the African and Asian continents. It's the gate. And many people crossed that region, many.
You know what's funny? You say this, and we say this. Other people don't want to realize it. It has become this popular narrative in the West, especially, to say Palestinians are the indigenous people. The very same guy, Fatih Hamad, there is another video that went, that was recorded by memory.
Yeah, I saw that when he was saying we are Egyptians.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course.
He was crying for help from the Arab world and saying, we are all Egyptians. Half of us are from Saudi Arabia. The other half are from somewhere else.
Right. No, they're very confused about their identity. The fact that they identify, they choose a national identity after a colonial entity is the biggest, I don't want to say joke.
It is a joke.
It's very humiliating.
Yeah.
To actually claim to be indigenous of the land, fighting against colonizers. But in the meantime, you choose a colonial entity as your national identity.
Palestine.
And you cancel the true and real indigenous people's right to that land with overwhelming evidence. That includes temples, kingdom ruins, Bibles, currency, artifacts, all the archaeological evidence that we have in that region support only one indigenous group, and the other group actually has no connection. They cannot even provide one evidence to connect them to that land. And also, when their history begins in 1964, the moment they identify with Palestine as Palestinians, this means, like, at best, their history started in 1922 when the Brits created the British Mandate for Palestine. Made, established, and terminated by the British. So even if Palestine, if they choose to have monopoly over Palestine, and if this is true, this means that they started in 1922.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, they did not have any existence.
Yeah.
So it's total ignorance. It's insanity. They don't know their own history. And I was one of them, because I took the history from my parents that we were Palestinians and they were Palestine, and the Jews occupied Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. This was the source of our history. We did not bother to read any history books until later. Just actually in the past few years, I had the out of necessity, I had no choice but to go back and study the history of that region, to find out, oh my God, Palestine never existed as a country.
Yeah.
The very foundation of the entire Palestinian narrative. So it doesn't get more insane than this.
The first attempt to actually officially announce a state called Palestine was in the 80s. Right? It was done by the PLO with Arafat, with his intentions to create something like that.
Look, let's put it in a simple way. In 1948, when the British ended the mandate of the land of Israel,
Mm-hmm.
from the river to the sea, and other parts of that region, by the way, that included Jordan and parts of Egypt as well. When they ended their occupation, the Arabs and the Jews had equal opportunity to establish their own state. The partition, which was proved by the United Nations, gave the opportunity to the Arabs to build their state. There was no such thing as Palestinian people at that time. Or let's say Palestinian as ethnic group, because they were Palestinians, but this was Jews, Druze, Christians, Arabs, many other ethnic groups who were given Palestinian passport. But who issued this passport? It was the British Empire. Now, the Arabs...
There's something very...
It's important.
Sorry,
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
The Arabs had equal opportunity, 1948, to declare their independence.
Mm-hmm.
The Jews, when they had the opportunity, they declared their independence, 1948.
Yeah.
But the Arabs refused to declare their independence. Instead, they declared war against the Jewish people. 40 years later, in 1988, Yasser Arafat declared the Palestinian independence. 40 years later. Yeah. Now, the problem where people don't understand, in this 40 years, many major wars changed the map and changed the reality on the ground and made things irreversible. And to come 40 years later, or even today, 70 years later, 76 years later, and demand the 1948 opportunity. How can I give you that? Who has the power to reverse the wheel of time and all the tragedy and all the suffering of people on both sides, and the memories and the pain and the killing and the bloodshed? Who has that power to be able to erase all that and bring us back to 1948, so the Arabs can enjoy the privilege of 76 years of forgiveness for all the violence that they have committed against their own children and against their neighbors? Nobody has that authority. Even if I have that authority, I would never give it as a reward to the Palestinians.